Welcome to this masterclass on pelvic ring injuries. The key principles to hold on to throughout are simple: address physiology before classification, remember that the posterior ring dictates stability, and let CT guide your definitive fixation. A pelvic ring injury is a disruption of the osteoligamentous complex comprising the sacrum, sacroiliac joints, innominate bones, and symphysis. The ring rule is critical. Any visible anterior fracture demands a deliberate search for a posterior injury. Your first decision is always physiological. A non-responder needs hemorrhage control, not a perfect classification. Remember that a pelvic binder goes over the greater trochanters, never the abdomen or iliac crests. And once you clinically suspect instability, do not repeatedly spring the pelvis. The Young-Burgess system classifies injuries by mechanism. Anteroposterior compression, or APC, patterns involve external rotation. APC1 is stable with symphysis widening under 2.5 centimeters. APC2 shows symphyseal diastasis greater than 2.5 centimeters with anterior sacroiliac widening, but intact posterior ligaments. And APC3 involves complete disruption of both anterior and posterior sacroiliac structures. Lateral compression, or LC, patterns involve internal rotation from side impact. LC1 is typically stable with rami fractures and sacral impaction. LC2 involves a crescent iliac wing fracture, and LC3 is a windswept pelvis with compression on one side and external rotation on the other. Vertical shear involves axial loading with cranial migration and is both rotationally and vertically unstable. Stability and fixation strategy escalate as you move through each grade. When facing a shocked patient, remember to bend. Binder goes over the greater trochanters immediately. Instability. Shock means pelvic bleeding until proven otherwise. No springing. Avoid repeated pelvic stress tests at all costs. And damage control escalate to packing, fixation, or angiography when physiology demands it. The TILE or AO framework focuses on stability. Type A injuries have an intact posterior arch and are stable. Type B injuries are rotationally unstable but vertically stable. These include open book and lateral compression patterns. Type C injuries have combined rotational and vertical instability, such as vertical shear or complete sacroiliac disruption. The memory hook is straightforward. TILE type C means combined instability, and the posterior ring must be fixed. Once the patient is stabilized, use SIFT to interrogate the posterior ring on CT. Assess the sacrum zone, completeness, displacement, and comminution. Examine the ilium for crescent fragments, wing fractures, and the posterior corridor. Check the foramina for neural risk and to plan safe screw trajectory, and measure translation. Any vertical or rotational displacement of the hemipelvis. The hemorrhage control pathway is driven by the patient's physiological response. A responder who stabilizes after binder and resuscitation can proceed to CT to define the posterior ring and plan fixation. A transient responder who deteriorates again has active bleeding. CT with arterial phase is useful only if safe, and a blush favors angioembolization. A non-responder who remains shocked despite binder and blood needs immediate peritoneal packing with mechanical stability. Do not let CT delay hemorrhage control in this group. Each hemorrhage control tool has specific strengths and limitations. A binder provides immediate volume reduction, but must sit over the trochanters and can mask instability on CT. Peritoneal packing rapidly tamponons venous plexus and cancellous bleeding, but requires mechanical stability and does not address arterial hemorrhage. Angioembolization treats arterial blush, but does not close pelvic volume or stabilize the ring. An external fixator offers temporary anterior control but poorly manages posterior vertical instability alone. REBOA, resuscitative endovascular balloon occlusion of the aorta, is a bridge for exsanguinating infradiaphragmatic bleed, but is not definitive treatment. Definitive treatment follows instability. Stable LC1 injuries are managed non-operatively with analgesia and early mobilization. APC2 patterns need anterior ring fixation, typically a symphyseal plate, with posterior fixation added if sacroiliac instability persists. APC3 injuries require both anterior and posterior fixation because posterior disruption makes anterior-only fixation inadequate. Vertical shear demands posterior fixation to restore length, with anterior support for rotational control. Open pelvic injuries require damage control followed by staged reconstruction, avoiding definitive implants through contaminated tissue. Anticipate complications across 3 timeframes. Early, the threats are exsanguination, coagulopathy, and missed urological injury. Prevent these with binder placement, balanced blood products, and a high index of suspicion. Intermediate concerns include pelvic infection, sepsis, and loss of reduction, prevented through contamination control and matching fixation strength to the degree of instability. Late sequelae include malunion, non-union, chronic posterior pain, and sexual or bladder dysfunction, which demand active screening and rehabilitation. In a shocked non-responder, first confirm the binder is correctly positioned over the greater trochanters and continue balanced transfusion. Exclude thoracic and abdominal bleeding as sources. If pelvic venous or cancellous bleeding is likely, proceed immediately to urgent preperitoneal packing with mechanical stability. The critical principle is clear: do not let CT acquisition delay hemorrhage control. Describe physiology first, then the fracture pattern. Symphyseal diastasis suggests an APC mechanism, but the posterior ring decides stability and treatment. A CT pelvis is mandatory to assess the sacroiliac joints. If this proves to be an APC3 with posterior sacroiliac disruption, anterior fixation alone is inadequate. The patient requires both anterior and posterior fixation.